Welcome everyone, reporting here live from ECTRIMS in Berlin, and it's my pleasure today to be joined by Professor Helen Tremlett from the University of British Columbia. Welcome. As I said to you just before we came on camera, we've featured a lot of your research before on research that's being done there, and we know that our community loves it, so very exciting to have you here. Do you want to just start by maybe giving a brief overview of the work that's going on there?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me on here. So I'm interested in talking about the gut microbiome because that's work that my team have been involved with. We're specifically looking at paediatric MS or kids with multiple sclerosis, but we collect poop, stool samples from people, and we're sequencing it, and we think, well, our overarching aim is to look at what role the gut microbiome might have in MS, and therefore see if we can potentially find a target or if we can do something to modulate the gut microbiome. I mean, this would be a long-term aim to affect change in MS. And it's very cool when you think that you're only 50% human. So half of your cells are human and the other half are microbes, and the bulk of them in your gut. And they do a lot of very cool things for you, as well as helping you digest food. They will educate your immune system, so they're constantly talking to your immune system that is sitting around the gut, and therefore that could influence the immune system all over, including in the brain and spinal cord, and that's where there might be that gut-brain connection in MS, so that might be relevant. They produce vitamins for you, vitamin K, and can prevent incoming infections. So if you've got a healthy gut microbiome, whatever that is, we don't know what a definition of a healthy gut microbiome is, but that makes you typically more of a resilient, healthier person if you have a diverse gut microbiome.
Okay. Interesting. And it's certainly an area that's really seen a big explosion in terms of the research over the past couple of years especially. Can you tell us a little bit about what do we know so far about the gut microbiome and MS?
So actually my team have got a systematic review here which we're presenting as a poster tomorrow. Not a lot in short, but it is definitely a growing area. So the papers that have been published, in total there are around about 10 studies at the moment, and they're literally just in the field of MS comparing the gut microbiome in people with MS relative to a group of people who don't have MS controls. We don't see, across all these different studies, no one tends to observe large differences in the gut microbiome. So typically, gut diversity, richness and evenness, fairly similar between people with MS and people without. And that's not unexpected because MS is not typically a gut disease, but there are definitely subtle differences in terms of the types of microbes that seem to flourish in the MS gut versus people without MS. And what we really want to do moving forward is figure out what those microbes are doing, and therefore what relevance they might have to MS, and is there something we could do about it.
And so does this tie in, I mean, lifestyle modifications and diet is something else? Is diet something that can influence this? Is this something that you'll be looking at in your research? Potentially,
absolutely. I mean, how we approach it is more from the perspective of controlling for diet, because we want our overarching question is, how does the gut microbiome differ in people with MS versus without? Asking whether you can change diet or use diet to modulate the gut microbiome is quite a different but important question. So we take it from the perspective of making sure that our groups are similar in terms of diet, and then that's not we call it a confounder in our study. So, but yeah, absolutely, diet is a huge interest in the gut microbiome. I don't have anything specific to say on that in the context of multiple sclerosis.
And so what are the next sort of year to 2 years hold in terms of your research? I know as a researcher, I know that's a great question to ask.
Well, I can tell you in the context of the gut microbiome, because we've got the largest bank of stool samples from children with multiple sclerosis and children without multiple sclerosis. Fortunately, MS is very rare in kids, but we've been lucky enough to be part of these big network studies in Canada and the US. and so we're just sequencing those stool samples. So in the next few years, I'm really hoping that we will be able to publish that work and come back maybe next year or a year after and give you insights into what we've been finding. I mean, just a quick insight into some of our preliminary findings. We were able to show that in kids with MS, when we looked at their gut microbiome and analysed it and looked at the future risk of relapse in those kids, we found that there was one specific group of microbes. The name is almost not relevant. This is more a proof of principle thing. But depletion in a specific group of microbes was associated with risk of an earlier relapse, MS attack. So we want to try and replicate that finding and validate it now in a larger group and see if it's really true, and therefore can we do something about it. And it is intriguing. Can you modulate the gut microbiome to improve outcomes in MS, such as reducing relapse rates? That would be a fabulous end goal, but that's a long way off.
A long way off, but an incredibly exciting area. Thank you very much for your time to talk to us today.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you for all your ongoing work, and we will definitely make sure that we stay up to date with everything that you're doing and continue to talk about it.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.